If you had 3 pillars of like, this is the things that we're going to build our team around, and what I would want you to buy in as a player, what would you say they were?
For us, the biggest thing is like we can set standards as a coaching staff. We can set standards, but the players have got to be able to do it and have got to want to do it. Okay, now we can give them, we can guide them, we can point them in the right direction, but unless you've got a group of guys that are willing to be bought in and do the things that you're asking them to do, it doesn't matter.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Game Changers League podcast. We're cultivating culture and shaping the future of sports with our conversations. Aaron Johnson couldn't be with us today, so Corey Murphy here, and then I am so honored to have my former coach and the head coach of the Rogers State University Hillcats with me, Coach Chris Klimas. Thanks for coming.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So we're going to chat just a little bit about your journey, your coaching journey. We're going to talk about culture. We're going to talk about what you see culture as. We're just gonna chat it up. So
shoot it.
Why don't you start out with just telling us a little bit about your coaching journey and how you got to RSU?
So we ended up in the Tulsa area because my dad played for the Tulsa Drillers, and originally from Chicago. Dad played a couple of years here with the Drillers. Was actually on the All-Decade team for them for the '80s as a third baseman. He and my mom lived here. Loved the Tulsa area, especially being from the north. The weather's a little bit better. The winters are a little bit more manageable. Yeah. So just kind of ended up here in the Tulsa area. And when he was done playing, his last year playing, he was in Double-A with the White Sox, won the batting title. And that's back when Double-A really had your prospects. Triple-A was more the older guys that were a little bit washed up. And so most of your prospects were in Double-A. And he's in the Eastern League, wins the batting title, doesn't get a September call-up, and just decided that was it for him. Time to hang him up. And so they enjoyed the Tulsa area so much, excuse me, that they moved back to Tulsa. And so that's kind of how we ended up here. Grew up in Broken Arrow, played baseball at Broken Arrow High School, played in college, junior college in Texas for 2 years, finished up playing at Oklahoma Baptist University. And when I finished my playing career there, I still had a semester of school left to finish my degree. And that was really big. Both of my parents were like, you got to get that degree. And so being a private school and the cost of attendance there, like it was a tough deal. And so like, okay, how are we going to finish this thing out without having to transfer somewhere? So Coach Cox, Bobby Cox, who I played for there at OBU, seeing back in those days, there was a head coach and then a part-time assistant, and that was it. And so it was a tough deal. You don't have a whole lot of manpower on the coaching staff. And he said, here, I'll make you a deal. If you'll stay on and coach with us for a year, while you're finishing school in the fall, and then obviously we won't have school in the spring. We'll find some ways to help you make money. I'll pay for the school the whole year. Let me talk to the AD. We'll find a way. We'll pay for the school the whole year or for that semester, but you stay with us the whole year and just kind of help. And I had no plans to go into coaching. Didn't know anything about it. I mean, I was just a player. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, so, sounds good to me. I'll get in where I can fit in, whatever. Started helping him that fall. So I went straight from a player into coaching and just trying to help out in any way that I could. And so I did that in the fall, and then that spring after I was done, well, the guy who was the assistant, his wife opened a dental practice. She was in dental school and going to open a dental practice, and so he had to check it in after that year. And so I just kind of stayed on. He was like, you want to stay on? It was a part-time job, didn't make much money, had to do a bunch of lessons, kind of make ends meet, and ended up doing it for 13 years for him. So I played there for 2 years with him, and then coached with him for 13 years. And then that last couple of years that I was there, I was the associate head coach, and really got to do a lot more than your typical assistant. I mean, he really just gave me full reign on the recruiting, and then it got to a point where he didn't like dealing with the business side of things, the budgeting and all that kind of stuff, and he just gave me a bunch of that to do. And so 13 years later, I'd spent a lot of time there, and I loved it. I love working for Coach Cox. I would work for him for another 13 years. It was great. And so we did that, and we're actually at the World Series the last year that I was there. We had a really good team that year. I think we went 58-9 my last year there. I think we had 9 All-Americans on that team.
The OBU was NAIA at that time.
Yep, we were NAIA, and we actually had just started the NCAA Division II transition, because we knew we were going D2. And so we had kind of started going through that process. And so I was doing that with him, and we were at the World Series, and couple of jobs had come open. People had contacted me. And I'm like, I don't think so. Whatever. So we get home from the World Series, and Coach Bradley from Rogers State, he calls me. He's like, hey, I'm retiring from coaching, and the athletic director asked that I give him a short list of people that I think would be good for the job up here at RSU. And being from the Tulsa area, I mean, it's right in the backyard,
Sure.
of, where I grew up, where my parents still lived. We had my daughter who was 3 at the time, and he was like, I'd like for you to at least consider it and think about it or whatever. Sarah Williams, who was a really close friend of mine, she actually ran our game day operations at OBU when she was a student, when she was finishing up before she got into college athletics. She ran the press box and kind of the game day operations for us there. And so I always take credit for her career that I gave her a first job in college athletics. So Sarah was our operations person. She ends up going to Mid-America Christian there in Oklahoma City and works there. And she was actually here at RSU at the time. And so I came up and interviewed. And funny story with that, like, I'd never interviewed for a job. Like, I loved OBU, loved everything about it, loved working for Coach Cox. I had gotten calls to interview for jobs and didn't really want to do anything other than be there. And so I'd never interviewed for a job. I had no idea what the interview process was like, anything like that. And so I actually get in touch with the athletic director. He schedules me for an interview, and it was about 2 weeks from the time I talked to him when the interview was. And so I'm like, I got to find a suit. So I go pull a suit out. I hadn't put on a suit, and I can't remember how long. Well, I pull that thing out, and it's about 3 sizes too small. So I'm like, crap. So I go on this crash diet to fit in the darn suit, and I do it. I pull it off. I lose about 20 pounds in 2 weeks to get in the suit.
My goodness.
And I come up, interview for the RSU job. I think I was one of the last couple to interview for the job. Got offered the job, took the job in July. I mean, it was a late get. And so we actually had a family vacation scheduled. We were in Florida. I'd gotten the job, and I was like, I can go on the vacation, but I can't stay the whole time because the roster needed some overhauling. Because Coach Bradley's last year here was their first year of Division II. We had started the Division II process while I was at OBU. So I had a little bit of background and kind of knew how the compliance side worked. And so I cut the vacation a little bit short to get back to get going on recruiting. We only had enough money for probably 4 or 5 guys to bring in. So the guys that were on the roster were the guys that really had to go with. Brought in about 4 or 5 guys. A couple of them ended up being difference makers. And the first year was pretty rough. I mean, when you go from having a program that goes 58-9, you go to the Final Four of the World Series. You got a couple big leaguers on that team. Guys ended up pitching professionally. One of them still pitching. And then come here, and that first year with the roster we had, like, it was pretty limited. And
what year was that?
That was fall of 14. Fall of 14 is when I got here. Spring of 15, and so I kind of inherited a team that had some work to do. Yeah. And I'm coming from a program that just went 58-9, went to the Final Four of the World Series, and Julian Merriweather was one of our starting pitchers who was with the Cubs in the big leagues the last 3 years. He's with the Mets now. And that year at the World Series, I mean, he's pitching, matching up against other guys that pitched in the big leagues later on. Yeah. It was really good baseball. And then I come up here, and we're in the Heartland Conference at that time, which is now kind of part of the Lone Star Conference. It kind of had that merger. It was a pretty rough year. I mean, I go from winning 58 games in spring of 14 to I think we won 19 games in spring of 15. So I go from and I didn't handle it very well. I wasn't a very good coach. I wasn't a very good loser, and it was pretty rough that first year.
Well, you're still not a good loser, to be fair.
Well, that's true. That's true, and that's probably good. But so that first year was pretty rough, and I look back at it, and I'm like, man, we're fortunate to win 19 games. Like when we look at the people that we were playing, you're playing St. Mary's, St. Edward. I mean, you're Lubbock Christian. Yeah, oh yeah. And so we were going against some pretty stiff competition, and we were pretty limited. I mean, we had 2 starting pitchers and probably 2 guys out of the bullpen we could count on. So you were kind of one-legged the whole season. And to win 19 games that year, like when I look back at it now, like that, we were pretty fortunate to win. And a lot of that credit goes to the guys, because when you inherit guys that had played for somebody else or whatever, that thing could have gone south really quickly. And those guys battled all year long and ended up having, a decent year for what we had. And so that was my first year, and I knew that we kind of had to make some big changes early on, and I was extremely fortunate that first full recruiting class that we had, Coach Brown and I, the next year, 15, 16. A lot of we hit on some guys. I mean, Rusty Huber ended up being an All-American for us and one of the best closers we ever had at RSU. Chris Miguel, who ended up being Player of the Year in the Heartland Conference later on. We hit on some guys, and those guys really were excited about coming in and like putting Rogers State back on the map, because Coach Bradley's last 2 years before their first year, their last 2 years of NAI, they went to the World Series both of those years. One of those years they were national runner-up, and so Rogers State, there was a lot of pride there in the baseball program. And his first year at D2, I think the year before I got here, they won 16 games. And then I take over, we win 19 games. And so we have a long way to go to getting Rogers State back to being a respected baseball program and getting the pride back into the program that was once there when they were an NAI program. And when you're trying to do it in Division II, because scholarships shrink. Like in NAI, you got 12, and Rogers State was one of the few state schools in NAI, and so they had a huge advantage, and there was a big reason that they had a lot of success, during their NAI days. And so now we're trying to do it with 9 in Division II, and Division II, there's a lot of parity. Everybody's good. Like every game you play, you're playing everybody. You feel like you're playing yourself. You're looking in the mirror and playing yourself every day, and so it was a process, but us being able to turn it around the way that we did, a lot of that credit goes to that first recruiting class, because we weren't postseason eligible. Like there was no postseason as you're in the transition process. Like there is no postseason eligibility, and so we were able to talk some guys into coming, knowing that there's no postseason, hopes at the end of it, and they wanted to come in and put RSU back on the map. And fortunately, we hit on a lot of those guys and had a lot of success early on that kind of catapulted us, to being a respected Division II program. And, fortunately, since I've been here, and I mean, any coach will tell you that like the credit goes to the players. Like the players are the ones that go out there and play every day. Like there's a lot of really good coaches out there that have a hard time winning. There's a lot of really bad coaches that So it all comes down to the players and the buy-in that they have, and trying to find a way to be the best version of themselves every day. And we were very fortunate that we hit on some of those guys, and a lot of those guys were bought into what we were trying to do. So by the time we got to being postseason eligible, and it was really hard in those days because in the Heartland, really competitive conference, but only four teams go to the conference tournament.
Yeah.
So like I think we had 2 years where we won, and 30-win seasons in Division II are like unicorns. They're hard to hit. They're hard to get. And we had 2 30-win seasons where we didn't even make the conference tournament.
Man.
One year we won 32 games, didn't make the conference tournament. And so it was a grind. And so when you look back at it, and I look back at my career at RSU and kind of where we started to where we've kind of gotten ourselves now, it's been a lot of fun for me, a lot of fun for the guys. And I tell you what, I'll also give a lot of credit to the alumni base, the guys that played for Coach Bradley in those NAIA days. They're extremely proud alums. Like those guys accepted me, and I'm coming from Oklahoma Baptist, who's kind of a rival of RSU. And I think early on it was kind of like, really, we're bringing in somebody from OBU, and those guys took me in, accepted me as one of their own, and all those guys are great alums. They come to the alumni games. There's a lot of support from those guys. So it's been a really fun journey here at RSU. But my coaching career, I mean, it's taken all kinds of different, from NAI to World Series to now Division II to winning 19 games to a conference championship in 2019 and a regional finals that year. To now in the MIAA, and you talk about a grind. Yeah. Holy cow, top to bottom, that league is no joke. So it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I'm extremely fortunate to be here. And, a lot of people have to wake up and go to work every day, and we all do. But I've never felt one day like I have to wake up and go to work today. Like I really enjoy what I do, and the people that I'm surrounded by, extremely supportive administration and really good groups of players and guys that we've had since I've been here at Rogers.
Man. So talk to me about 2015 or spring of 2015, your first season. You're coming in, like you said, transition, no hopes for postseason eligibility. What impact, like when you hear the word culture, what were you preaching to the guys in that season?
Man, I tell you what, my head was spinning that first year because you got what you got. And it was extremely frustrating at times. Like I'll tell you, the very first practice we had, so I take the job, I sit down with Coach Browning. Coach Brown sitting across the desk from me, and I've got a list that Ryan Irwin, our athletic director, had given me of who's on the roster. They didn't have a coach. Like people are calling wanting to walk on, and Ryan's like, we trying to make sure they have a team. So he's like, you want to come walk on? Come on. So I have this list of like players that they'd signed, guys that had said they're going to walk on. I don't know anything about most of these guys. Mm-hmm. And so I'm sitting across from Coach Brown. I'm like, tell me about this guy. Tell me about this guy. And he's like, Coach, he's not very good. No, that guy, he might be able to help us a little bit. And I'm like, come on, dude, give me something. and so for me, it was, we're going to go be the very best that we can be. Okay. And no matter how it plays out, how it works out, this is who we got. Okay. You may not have signed up to come here to play for me, but we're in this together. Okay. There's no like, these are Coach Bradley's guys. These are my guys that I brought. Like they're all my guys. And that's what I met with some of the returners during the summer when I got here, like in July. And I told them, you know, it's not going to be, my way is not going to be better than Coach Bradley's way. All I can promise you is it's going to be different. And so we're all in this together. We've got who we've got. You've got me. I've got you, and we've got to figure out a way to make it the very best that we can. And we didn't even have a schedule. Like we had about a half a schedule that I inherited. Like Coach Bradley left it on the desk, the schedule, and I opened it up, and like there was holes in the schedule. There's spots in the schedule. It's like go to Texas and play somebody, and I'm like, what does that mean? Like who? And so like that, but that was his plan. Like he had a plan. Like he may have known what the plan was, but like I'm just looking at it and like go to Texas. Texas is a big place. Like who am I going to find to play? And so like I'm trying to backfill a schedule and trying to get in touch with people. And I don't know a whole lot of Division II coaches because I've been coaching in the NAI, and so there was a lot of moving parts. It was really, but we had to show up and we had to work every day. And we had to keep our head down and be focused in what we did. And we won some big games, like games that we probably shouldn't. Beat some people we probably shouldn't have beat. I mean, we went down to Lubbock Christian last weekend of the year with nothing to play for. We go down there and take 2 out of 3 from those guys on the road at a place with a Homer Dome. And we had Andrew Venisi, who's our first All-American. I brought him in at the break, and he went off. Chase Knott, who coaches at Adair now, he was our shortstop. He had a big weekend. And we finished it out the right way. Like we went down there and battled with no postseason. Like even if we would have been postseason eligible, we weren't going to the postseason that year with 19 wins. And we go down there and take 2 out of 3 from a really good club. And that really kind of gave us the momentum going into that recruiting season. But it was extremely difficult. But those guys always believe, like even in the worst of times, and I try not to think about that year a whole lot, but I'm sure we had some pretty lengthy losing streaks during that year, but those guys just kept going. And I remember specifically at the end of the year banquet, that was one thing that stuck out to me when I was talking about that team was that those guys showed up every single day and it would have been easy for them to like, I didn't come to play for this coach, like forget it, I'm just going to ride it out. And those guys never did that. They played their butts off. They played hard all year. And as a coach, that's really all you can ask for.
Yeah. So I could probably answer a lot of these questions as a former player, but like as you've progressed in your coaching journey, what are, if you had 3 pillars of like, this is the things that we're going to build our team around and what I would want you to buy in as a player, what would you say they were?
Well, and it's funny you say that because I use that terminology a lot, pillars. We always, and I've had to evolve as a coach as well because playing our home games at the Diamond Sports Complex, like that's an extremely challenging place.
Sports Complex.
RCB. Back then, it was the Diamond Sports Complex, but now it's RCB Sports Complex. I've had to evolve because the way that we won at OBU, where the field's set up where the wind blows out to left and you go get a bunch of guys that can get it up and you score runs by the bucket full and defense, pitchers throw it over the plate. Yeah, throw it over the plate enough. We're going to come score a bunch of runs. Like that's kind of how we did it there. Well, then you come here and the wind's blowing in and you got to play defense.
If you can get a ball out at RSU, you got it out.
You got it. And you can't just hit pop-ups that are going to fly out. And so I had to evolve. And so we here at RSU, we have pillars of our baseball pillars. Like, these are the things we have to be really good at to be successful here, because you got to win at home before you can worry about winning on the road. So we've got those pillars that we talk about. And then as far as culture and the way that we run our program and operate, we've got pillars in that as well. And so for us, the biggest thing is, like, we can set standards as a coaching staff. We can set standards, but the players have got to be able to do it and have got to want to do it. Okay. Now we can guide them, we can point them in the right direction, but unless you've got a group of guys that are willing to be bought in and do the things that you're asking them to do, it doesn't matter. Yeah. And so, like, talking about culture, and I say it all the time, like, culture became a big buzzword probably 10 or 15 years ago. I remember going to the ABCA convention when culture became a huge thing. And it was like every other speaker on the main stage was talking about culture. And for me, culture is one of those things, like, if you're having to talk about culture all the time, and it's always culture, then you probably don't have it. And if that's all you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. Because culture is what you do every single day. It's like how you show up, the consistency that you bring every day as a leader, as a coaching staff. And so for us, the leadership that we try to provide and how we go about our business, like, that's the culture. And I feel like a lot of times, like, culture is a get out of jail free card for a lot of coaches. Like, they have a bad year and it's like, well, these guys just weren't brought into the culture that we were, like, well, that's on you. Like, or it's on the guys, like, for not trying to be. It's not a get out of jail free. Like, when you have a bad year, it's not just because the guys weren't bought into the culture or whatever. But I think for us, one of the pillars is just consistency. We try to be, in our program, we try to be process oriented in everything we do, because in our game, there's so much failure. Okay. And if you're only bought into the result, if you're result oriented in this game, there are going to be so many highs and lows and ups and downs, and it's impossible to be consistent. And so I tell our guys, because there's days in our game that you can play really, really poorly and you can win. Yeah. And there's days you can play really, really well and you just get beat. You run into a good pitching performance, or a break doesn't go your way. You line out 5 times. Guy hits a 2-strike thumber over the second baseman's head and you get beat. Like, if you're only focused on the result, then everything's going to be up and down, up and down, up and down. And if you're going to be mad every time you lose and happy every time you win, no matter how you went about it, like, that's not sustainable. And so for us, consistency is a big thing. We expect our guys to play hard. We expect our guys to go about their business the right way on and off the field. Like, handle your business. Our guys hear me say that all the time. Handle your business. Handle your business. Like, go about your business, because if you do that and you're consistent, you can be consistent in how you go about your business, good things are going to happen. And that's part of the process that we're talking about, not just being focused on the result, because you can't do it in this game. Like, that's just the way that it is. And so for us, like, if we get beat and we play poorly, I'm probably going to be upset. But the next day when we show up to work, like, it's back to work, and it's that same consistency, because you always get your best out of your players when they know what to expect. If they don't know, when I'm walking in the locker room that day or out to practice that day, is he in a good mood or a bad mood today? Okay, he's in a good mood. Whew. Like, that's from when we start practicing January 10th. That's first day the NCAA lets us start working out, January 10th. If we walk in and they don't know what they're getting, it's going to be hard from January 10th till hopefully the middle of May, by the time we, finish up in the playoffs. Like, there's always teams that at the end, you'd rather play them at the end of the year, because they're so worn down, beat down. They're sick of each other. They're sick of their coaches. They just want to go home. And I think if you're consistent with your messaging and how you show up and you work every day, our teams are usually more fresh at the end, which is probably why we have success towards the end of the year and have postseason success. Like, in the 25 years that I've been doing this, with Coach Cox, he's the one that, really preached that to me. Like, we're going to be ready to roll by the end. We may hit some bumps along the road, but we got to hold it together, keep it together, be consistent. And because you always want to aim to be one of those teams that people hate to play late. Yeah. Instead of, and I could name you about 4 of them that you like to play. If you got them on the schedule late, you're like, all right, late. You're like, oh yeah, we got them, because by the time they get to you, they're going to be over it. Yeah. And so I think one of the biggest things for us is being consistent, handling your business, and sticking to the process, being process oriented instead of result oriented. There's times we'll have really bad losses, and I'll tell our guys after the game, like, we're fine.
Yeah.
We're going to be good. We're going to show up. We're going to find a way to win a game tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, we got to flush it. And that's not just pushing it off to the side. We'll address the mistakes or whatever happened down the road. But right now we got to focus on getting back on the horse tomorrow.
Yeah. 'Cause we play tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the way this game is. Like, you don't have to stew on it for a week like football.
Yeah.
Like, you're right back on it. And so that's part of that process oriented versus result oriented. I think that's really big with us.
Yeah. I can definitely attest to that. I'll never forget. We were playing Lubbock Christian. You might remember this. It was 2019 year. We're playing Lubbock Christian at their place. Balls flying out all over the place. I don't remember which game I threw, but we were in a 1-to-1 dogfight. 7th inning, bottom of the 7th, 2 outs, and a dude hits just a missile into the bottom of the turf, like 4 foot in front of home plate, and it bounces all the way over our first baseman's head, Grant Ferris. And we end up losing. Runner was on second, and he rounds it and scores. And we lost 2-1. And I'll never forget, I was so upset after that game. And I was upset, and I knew you were probably upset too. I mean, nobody likes to lose.
Right.
But you came out, and you were like, guys, we're fine. We played great. Trust the process. Get back on the horse. We got another one.
Yeah.
Because we got another one to play.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the things that I always appreciated the most about you as a coach is I did know what I was going to get. Like, if I absolutely sucked, it was like, hey, you suck today.
Yep.
Let's get back on the horse. Let's go back to let's figure out what we need to do to get better.
Yeah.
And let's just go out and do it again.
Yeah.
And I always appreciated that about you as a coach. Let me see if I have one more question. How long have we been going? 30 minutes? Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about the 2019 season. Just because not because I was a part of it, but that's something that postseason had some success. What did you see from the players as a whole, and like how it looked from a coach's perspective of this was a successful team? What are some of the building blocks that you saw of like this is why that team was successful?
Well, that team, it was extremely invested, and for them it was important. Okay, and every year, every recruiting class, you're going to have guys that it's more important to than others. I felt like on that team, we had a lot of guys that it was really important to. And if you probably don't remember, but I'll refresh your memory a little bit. The schedule back then, see, we only had 8 or 9 teams in the league at that time. And so filling a schedule was difficult. And so what they ended up having us do was we played 3 series of non-conference play against conference opponents early on.
Yep.
And so our 3 teams that we played in non-conference play against conference opponents was Oklahoma Christian, Oklahoma Christian, Newman, and maybe Fort Smith.
That might be right.
Yeah. I think it was those 3 because they try to keep it with the local
That's
ones.
right. Yeah.
And we did not play well in those 3 series before we started counting conference wins and losses. And I remember we went to Oklahoma Christian, and I think we played the first day, and then we got, and I think we either got swept or split, and then we got snowed out or iced out. Though that was the first one. Then we go up to Newman, we get beat twice up there on the road. And then I don't remember what we did with Fort Smith, but it wasn't very good. We didn't play very well. And I remember thinking to myself, like, here we go. Like, this could go south really quick. And the message was those wins and losses aren't counting in the conference column yet. So we've got to figure out a way to kind of point our focus to now that it counts. And we went on a little bit of a run there to start it, had a little bit of a lull in the middle, and then we caught fire at the end. And that team, I really felt like every game that we played, I felt like we were going to find a way to win. And we did. And the way we finished out conference play, the way it ended with Oklahoma Christian, like they had to win a game to get in. And we were already locked into the 2-3 matchup. We had clinched our spot. We were locked in. And so that last game, it comes down to that last game of the year against Oklahoma Christian. If they win, they beat us, they're in. And if we win, we're the 2 seed, and the 2 and 3 play each other. So there was really nothing for us. So like we didn't want to, empty out our pitching or whatever and put us in a bad spot starting the conference tournament the next week. But you guys weren't having it. We were winning that game. and we found a way to win that game. We
With a
eliminate
walk-off.
with a walk-off. Dylan Russell
Yep.
hit checks the third baseman. We get the interference call. They count the run. We walk them off. We end their season, and we get the 2 seed, which we were playing Fort Smith game 1 regardless.
Yeah.
And we go down there and we grind that one out, and then we grind out the next one, and then we go to the regional. And we start. That team refused to lose.